So much of conventional tech growth business mythology, I guess you could call it, is the harder you work, the more committed you are, the faster you go, the more success you'll have. And what I've found with the people I work with, that it's much more common that the problem is that they're doing too much rather than that they're doing too little.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder? Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where the right message doesn't just describe your product, it sells the vision, earns trust, and makes your pitch unforgettable. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. What happens when a brilliant builder suddenly becomes the boss and realizes the blueprint doesn't cover leadership? Happens a lot. Today, we're going to dive into the journey of the accidental CEO, the technically gifted founder who finds himself steering a growing business without a playbook. We explore the concept of radical clarity, a leadership mindset rooted in knowing exactly who your ideal customer is and what makes your product truly valuable. And of course, how to deliver on that promise consistently. You hear why delegation isn't just a time saver, it's a growth strategy. And when founders hang on to too many decisions, they become the bottleneck. But with the right structure and accountability in place, letting go becomes less risky and far more rewarding. We'll also zoom out to the broader business landscape where AI is flooding the zone with content. But real connection still wins, always. In a world of automated messaging, the brands that rise are the ones that prioritize authenticity over automation and simplicity over noise. If you're a founder who's great at building but still figuring out how to lead, this episode is full of hard-won insight on how to grow a company without losing your clarity, your voice, or your mind. Let's get into it. Our founder on Tuesday was Sri Ganesan, co-founder and CEO of Rocket Lane. They're on a mission to turn onboarding into a strategic edge. We explored why onboarding is more than just implementation, it's the second sale that cements customer loyalty. From AI-enhanced delivery to trust-based partnerships, Sri's insights help founders see onboarding not as a step in the journey, but as the moment customers decide whether or not to go all in. And our expert guest last week was Christy Jones. Christy is the no-nonsense sales leader who helps B2B SaaS companies build disciplined, accountable, and quota-crushing sales teams. With a few decades of experience and a best-selling book called Selling Your Way In, Christy teaches sellers how to play to their strengths and convert cold loss into future wins. On the podcast, she broke down how to reframe closed loss deals as not right now, and how to lead sales teams with purpose, structure, and relentless follow through. If you missed either episode, go back and mine the gold out of those two. My guest today is Pete Steege, the B2B growth strategist behind the success of countless accidental tech CEOs. With over 30 years of experience guiding startups and Fortune 100s alike, Pete knows how to turn technical brilliance into business clarity. He helps founders move from reactive problem solving to confident, intentional leadership. His specialty? Distilling complexity into simple, actionable frameworks for storytelling, team alignment, and market strategy. If you've ever struggled to delegate, articulate your value, or scale without burning out, Pete's roadmap is the guide you didn't know you needed. Welcome, Pete Steege. Hey, Pete, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, Jeff. So great to be here.
You're a former engineer, and now you specialize in guiding accidental CEOs, which technical founders who wake up one day and realize they're running a company. Happens. And what drew you to that niche?
I think the first thing was I'm actually one myself. I started life as an engineer. I was an electrical engineer out of college. And I was so excited about building things. I just love to build things.
Very
And
cool.
as I did that, it was great. But I found myself over about 7 years drifting towards the customer side of businesses, worked in a big company and then a real small one. And it finally got to the point where I realized I love the building thing. There's actually a lot more for me creatively on the building of the business, right? And started in more of the marketing side, but it really became through my career, I learned a lot about how to grow tech B2B businesses. And as I worked with these leaders who, like me, were an engineer at heart or a scientist or a policy wonk or whatever it might be, a domain expert, I saw a lot of common traits, challenges, right? Blocks that got in the way of these really smart people from being a CEO, right? It's a totally different task and it requires a different set of skills. And yet it's so important for their success. So 5 years ago, I started my business, B2B Clarity, to help those accidental CEOs figure out how to grow beyond their technical background and run a successful business.
That's awesome. Yeah, something that I think is really needed because it is a very different skill. And just because you're really good at building things doesn't mean you're great at building companies. They're just different.
It's so true. Especially the biggest limitation that I see is just a perspective of maker's perspective, this maker's lens, I call it, where they're so good at what they do and they totally believe in their solution, but they get caught up in what they make or sell and forget to translate it to their customer and have the customer perspective to say, hey, here's how I can help you with your problem. Instead, they tend to talk about the acronyms and the capabilities and the speeds and feeds, right? About this truly wonderful product. But if you don't go to where the client is first, they don't hear it. So that's the first limitation I see in almost everyone I work with.
Without a doubt. And your work is grounded in something I love, radical clarity. New book coming out.
That's right.
What is clarity, not hustle? How does that become the critical success lever in the messy middle of growth?
I think so much conventional tech growth business mythology, I guess you could call it, is the harder you work, the more committed you are, the faster you go, the more success you'll have. And
That's
what
good.
I've found with the people I work with, that it's much more common that the problem is that they're doing too much rather than that they're doing too little. And I'll give you some examples of that. From their messaging, what they say about their product. Their websites are crammed full of information. They have a very complicated story. So many of them will come to me and say, we're really good, but it takes us so long to explain to them what we do. It's very complex. And they might have 2 or 3 targets, we'll call them targets, that have conflicting needs and conflicting messages. Well, how does the team know what we're really about when there's so many confusing messages? So on the
Right.
messaging side, on the operations side, it's so easy to spin up too many programs, too many initiatives, too many campaigns even. And even with leadership, are you focused on what's really important for your team? And as you grow, are you preventing that kind of unraveling of energy and personalities and perspectives that happens in fast growing startups? So I have found that clarity, starting with, why are you here? What's your true story? I call it their true story. Stopping the noise, taking the time quietly to really uncover what is the specific truth that is why we created the business or why we all work hard on it every day. And that truth, you'll be familiar with it. It's essentially that product market fit or that brand story or that
Sure.
mission vision. The way I describe it is there's 3 pieces. There's exactly who do we help? Not who can we help, who do we help? And I talk about that being more than a target market, more like a bullseye market. Who's this
Mm.
ultra sweet spot? So that if you told them that brief story, those 3 words that describe who you are, they say, oh my gosh, where have you been? I've been waiting for you, right? That's That's who you need to really be clear who's there. The second piece is, why did we create this business? What is it that we do for that specific target that's unique or special or we're committed to? And then third is, how does that show up when we do work with them? What's that benefit they get? Finding that true story, I don't know your experience, Jeff, but for me, especially with these accidental CEOs, more often than not, they really don't know that.
That's absolutely correct.
And so that clarity, radical clarity, is about starting with that true story and then applying it and distributing it in your business, in your prospects, in your customers, as you in your culture as you grow, and just keep going back to the basic truths. I found, again, less is more, and the big win. And actually, it's a lot more fun too when you don't have 25 spinning plates and everything you're doing. The big win is to be back to basics and not get distracted by all the noise.
Yeah. I think it's really easy to get too much, get too deep, and think that we have to tell them everything, or there's so much to the story that if I leave this part out, then maybe they won't get it. But you're right, less is more. How do we get to that less and know what to filter out and what to include?
I have a framework that I use with clients called the truth chain, and it's a real helpful and accessible way to talk about this. And I talked about what the true story includes. And what the truth chain is, a mechanism to get from our story, the thing we're so excited about is these technical experts, to their story. And the exercise, there's 5 links in the chain. On each end, one is that bullseye customer. So who is that? On the other end is, what do we do? Who are we? And then the next 2 chains, which bring you closer to the middle, from the customer side, it's what are those burning pains that are relevant to what we do that keep them up at night? What are the things that they're thinking about? Because so often we try to talk about what we're thinking about, and they just don't have room in their brain to think about it, or their heart. And then on your side, that next link is, what are our superpowers? What is it that makes that? What's our capabilities? And it's not just your product. It might be your people, it might be where you are, it might be your business model. But there's something about what you do that uniquely makes you equipped to help these people, right? So you find those things, and now you're one step away. And the link of the whole chain is how we can help you. And when you do that work first, it becomes a short step from those superpowers we have and those burning issues they have to what's that thing we do that provides that relief. And when you come up with that, the big win, back to radical clarity, is when we find those 2 to 3 to maybe 5 words that describe that in such a way that when we get to that with the team, everybody, it's a high energy moment. It's, oh my God, that's it. That's what we've been trying to say. And it's in this complicated way. We've boiled it down. That is the most powerful thing in the world, because that phrase opens the door. And it's not just for your prospects. It's so easy to think about marketing and sales. Your team, everybody starts to get the same idea of what's the truth about why we're doing this. And it helps hold all of the activities and behaviors together and make it work in concert.
That's really good, because everybody has to answer the question, what do you do? Or what does the company work for? What do you do? What does that company do? And a lot of times they really struggle to articulate what that is. And I always love it when somebody get asked the question and then they have a very good answer and you're like, wow, obviously well trained, or they've really distilled that messaging down to where it resonates and everyone in the company knows exactly how to present that.
And Jeff, when it's authentic, that comes through too, right?
Yes.
When it's not,
they own it.
You see them recalling the script or the training versus, yeah, I believe in this thing we are.
They're excited about it.
Yes.
That's the magic.
That's right.
So with accidental entrepreneurs, they have expertise. So they're good at building something, a lot of times really deep expertise. How do they turn that into scalable leadership? What's maybe the first practical step in making that transition?
The first thing is what we just talked about, the true story. Absolutely, that opens the doors in a lot of different ways. But beyond that, there's several other challenges. And I like to think of it in three areas, the three P's. I have them look at their organization and do an assessment of where their gaps might be. And they focus on people, profit, and products. Those are interesting because it's not the typical classical functions of a business. It's more organized around the mind space of a CEO. The product, obviously, and usually that's not something that we need to spend much time on because that's what they brought, their ability to be excellent at the product. There might be some operational, the parts about deploying the product that are missing, but usually that's a relative strength.
Yeah.
The people can be an issue. That is, how do you be a leader? How do you show up as a leader? And there are technical experts that have that skill and it's a natural skill for them,
Sure.
or they've developed it. Maybe they've come through an organization and had to lead. It's just a different level of leadership. But often that's a gap, right? They aren't leading their team and they didn't realize, they didn't respect the importance of that. So
Mm.
understanding that, identifying those gaps. And then on the profit side, that's the numbers, right? That's the financials. How do we do this profitably? Again, sometimes they have that skill. That's also often a missing piece. And identifying the gaps is the next step. And then it's applying an action plan. And it's not about going to business school. There's value in that, of course. It's really a mindset issue in my experience, more than anything. You can hire expertise in almost
Sure.
any area. The key thing you bring as the CEO is the leader, right? And the vision, the holder of the vision, the decider, right? You're the one that decides where you go. And it's important in those three areas to figure out what are the outcomes that you want and how do you achieve them, versus ignorance is not bliss in this case. And often there's blind spots and they're not aware of that. That's why that assessment is so important up front.
Yeah. As you're thinking about bringing in experts, delegation terrifies a lot of tech founders. And I think I struggle with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, delegation and have for a long time. And I think that's pretty universal among entrepreneurs, and I'm getting better at it. But how do you coach founders through giving up control without losing visibilities? I think that's really the danger, is if we do that and just throw it over the fence and no more visibility, and now we have no control either.
I'm really glad you asked that question. I have a specific thought about the power of delegating effectively and that it's missing from a lot of CEOs, like you said. In my view, if you look at how CEOs get in trouble with delegation as they grow, when they start, it's pretty easy because it's either just them or it's a real small team.
Right.
And most cases, they make the decisions. The important decisions, that's your job. You're the leader of this thing that you created. The challenge comes that as you grow, that doesn't scale, right? So first of all, if you continue to try to do that, you keep unipolar control of the decision making, it does not scale. The team dependent starts having to wait for you. You're the bottleneck. And that frustrates the heck out of them.
Yeah.
But two, decisions aren't getting made. So what I see CEOs do that doesn't work is they say, I'm going to empower my team. I'm going to let them make the decisions, more of the decisions. And the challenge with that is, if you just empower people and also just let go of your control of the decisions, the accountability of the decisions, that's chaos. Because now, people are making decisions. You've empowered them. Good for that. And they may not be qualified, or they make a decision that conflicts with somebody else, one of their peers that makes a decision, right? It's just
Right.
a recipe for disaster. And so CEOs, then they pull it back and they're back stuck in the same problem. The
Right.
successful way to navigate that, in my experience, is that you accept the fact that we need one person to make decisions. But I, as the CEO, don't have to be the one making all of those, be accountable for all of those decisions. So you have this important role that says we're only going to let one person make these important decisions. And then as a CEO, you start delegating responsibility and the decision to people. So the head of sales gets some of the decisions you made before, but everybody knows they're the decider for that, not anybody else in the company. And that comes with the accountability of what happens. So it's the mix of spreading the responsibility for decisions, but also and empowering your team, but doing that in a very defined and controlled way.
That's a really good way to look at that. And I think it makes it easier just having the visibility and accountability along with it. You get much better results.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thinking about go-to-marketing or go-to-market strategy and marketing, branding is a key thing in really making a name in the marketplace so that there's an affinity along with the product or the solution, so that those things are linked. But it's not really a buzzword thing. It's about how do we create that truthful message in the marketplace that resonates with our ideal prospect? How do you do that?
I am a big believer in the power of meaning in business success, in marketing in particular. I believe that there's a really simple definition for business growth and success that is relationships. It's one word, relationships. And that if to the extent the company can create and build relationships between its customers and the business, that's how it works. And what I mean by that is if you're a prospect, if you're a customer, and you're going to decide to buy something, you need a reason to do that. If I come knocking on your door with my brand and I say, hey, let me tell you about what we do. If I hear whatever I hear and there's no reason, there's nothing in my world that matters related to what you said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm busy. We're all so busy. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pass. And that's why so many emails and social outreach gets unanswered or ignored, because people have to make a choice. We all do. Think about your own life. And I believe that brands that work goes back to that true story. If you know who you're targeting with your brand, you need a story that has meaning, for shared meaning in it, that catches their attention, right? That shows why this matters to them. And as I said before, better yet, if it's 2 words or 3 words that communicate that at the top level. I believe that's what a brand's about, is sharing that true story. And to your point, it can't be made up. Some do it. You can do it. But I believe true
They're
success,
out there.
they're out there. I believe
Yeah.
that's manipulation. And manipulation is a short-term gain. To me, it's like an extension of clickbait. It's like clickbait for a business. That's what we're talking about. And success comes from when you sincerely and genuinely share a way to help somebody that's meaningful to them, because it's what you literally can do. You're talking to somebody that you believe you can help, versus trolling for anybody that will raise their hand. So I think that's what successful in brand comes from, is that clearly defining and communicating who you are, that true story, in a way that's relevant to the audience you have. So it creates that meaning.
Yeah. And in telling those stories, is that different than the origin story? Does it expand beyond that?
Yeah, I think origin story is the secondary. That's back to the meaning thing. If it depends on who you are, right? If you're an investor and you're listening to pitches, the origin story is important to you, but because from your experience, that relates to the success rate or the value or the uniqueness of that brand. So it still comes back to meaning if for you as the investor. So I just think that if you start with why it matters to them, origin story might be part of why it matters to them. It supports it, right? Just as your product capability is supporting of the connection, the reason why I get value from associating myself with you. Yeah. So sometimes that's enough, right? If it's a really cool story and if who I am, I care, or I'm very curious, or I'm very open to a company like yours that started the way you did.
Yeah.
But that by itself is not enough. I believe that has to come out of the purpose again.
What if a leadership book and a Netflix drama had a baby? That is The Captain's Keys, Storms, Emotional Wreckage, and a surprisingly practical leadership system that one CEO called the owner's manual and never got for 20 years of leadership. Here is the brutal truth. You're probably drowning in LinkedIn connections while starving for real relationships. I hear it all the time. Most leaders are exhausted from playing the lone hero, and it's killing both your results and your sanity. The Captain's Keys reveals a new leadership framework, the stability matrix, four specific relationships that prevent burnout while multiplying your impact. And this isn't just theory. It's a system that I've used to scale companies and taught over 1,000 executive leaders. So grab your copy today at thecaptainskeys.com, Amazon, or choose your own adventure, print, ebook, or audio. Stop drowning alone and build your stability matrix. Definitely. What's your take on scaling go-to-market efforts without losing the founder's original spark or the mission or the real driver behind that? Some of it is origin story, but it's
Yep.
really the mission of why they created the company.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes back to that being disciplined, and as you grow, the level of everything ratchets up, right? The number of activities, the meetings, the people that you're trying to manage as part of your team or empower, the number of customers, the number of initiatives, the investment, everything goes up, right? And it's that founder that had a direct relationship with every employee and a direct connection with every client at the beginning eventually doesn't have either of those, right? There's people on the team that doesn't spend much time with the CEO anymore. And there's customers that people on the team don't know because it's not their job anymore, right? Now it's not everybody doesn't literally know the clients and what they're Joe at the client. I hear it from them what they need. So it has to be to succeed as you scale. The CEO has to be the chief meaning officer, really. They have to be prioritize consciously communicating and creating the environment in the team that's reminding them, be a broken record about why we're here, what's going on. Having at the product review, saying things, asking questions like, how does this new product that we're launching align with this value we have? Talking to customer, talking to the product team about the customer. How does this feature that we are focused on investing in help our clients, this target, this bullseye customer, right? So it's your job as the CEO, and that's how you scale, is you keep the ties in place to the meaning, right? What it is you did. That's got to be your job. So many CEOs, they get so busy that just falls by the wayside, and they're focused on going to the investor meetings and the big client reviews and the whatever it might be, and they don't take the time for that basic blocking and tackling, which is actually more important because before it happened naturally and organically, whether they put any effort into it at all. And now it's really necessary. So I think that's the biggest piece. That, and I'll go back to radical clarity. Play the role of the simplifier, right? Hey guys, remember 3 priorities this quarter. How are we doing on those 3 priorities versus the 20 metrics on the dashboard that I call them cosmetrics? They look good and
That's a
they
great one.
show
I like that.
activity,
Yeah.
but the best test for a metric is when you report that number, who's who changed their behavior, who took action differently because of that number that they saw in that meeting. And I think you've seen it too, Jeff.
Yes.
So often nod or check your email, but you're not really gaining anything from that metric. And it's much better to have, and yes, you need some secondary metrics, but I like to challenge CEOs, have one metric for every major project or initiative or campaign.
One North Star.
North Star, that's
Yep.
the one. And that determines that's our guide to say, is this being successful or not?
Super helpful because you can focus on that. You can't focus on 12 different things at
No.
once. And here's this, it's too much, just complexity.
Yes.
So it's that simplicity. And I love that, whether it's the messaging, whether it's the metrics, it's really finding that simplicity because that's what scales.
So true.
Things are changing in the sales and marketing, go-to-market landscape. AI certainly having a huge impact. One of the things that you said is the most human wins. Tell me a little more about that, and especially as AI floods the B2B world with more noise.
Yes, I call it the content flood. It started, but it's going to get a lot worse, right? As AI makes it magnitudes easier to create content. And by the way, that content is good quality. It's going to be good quality. We have to change how we think about things because it's
Yeah.
easy to say, oh yeah, spam stuff, it's crappy. It's not, you can see that it's poor quality. That's not going to be the situation, I believe, with AI. In a short time, my inbox that is already too full will be 10 times fuller. And I don't know. I probably assume that pretty much all of it is from a robot. And so I'm really going to discount that channel and the other channels. And there's going to be very few chances for us we can't use our traditional channels the way we did before to
Right.
reach our clients. I like to say marketing is breaking, right? The marketing we know today is broken, is going to be broken.
Yes. Yes.
The most human wins says that putting yourself in your client's situation, what I just said, I'm assuming there's no humans here. I'm showing up to a party with a bunch of machines trying to take something from me, right? My time or my resources. How can your company show up at your client and in a way that they know it's you authentically?
I like that.
And by the way, that should be a priority for you to find a way to show up authentically. You will not succeed if you turn it over to the bots. Success comes from reason to connect, authentic connection. And that happens when you find a way to show up and be real. And I'll tell you, this is not going to be easy. I can't give you a simple solution to how to show up authentic. We see the challenge in front of us. But what I'm challenging companies is that's your task. Start now because you don't need it today, but it won't be long where you have to find a new way to make that connection. And by the way, if you do start now and you challenge your team, you make this one of your priorities, you don't have to be the best. But if you're relatively more human than any of their other alternatives, then you win. So that's why it's not being perfectly human wins. No, it's the most human wins. People are going to, I believe businesses are going to starve even more, are going to be even more hungry for human relationship contact, right? Because of this, it's going to be when you do find a way to show up that way, oh my gosh, that's going to be a breath of fresh air for them. And you have a unique advantage by approaching them that way.
I think you really do. And it's funny you talk about just the channels, and already there are bots that are creating emails, and then you can actually have one on your inbox that will summarize the emails. And so I think it's just going to end up being bots talking to each other, and maybe there's something relevant in there, or who knows. But the human aspect is been somewhat lost with automation.
Yeah.
And so I think you're exactly right. There is a shift already, and will continue to be, and really swinging back toward human and wanting to interact with people and know that they're real.
Yep. And it's interesting because we all know face to face doesn't scale. It's expensive and it's hard to do, but it won't be long before the only time I know I'm really talking to a human being is when I'm in the same room with them. As weird as that is.
That's true.
And yeah, you can't afford to make that your only outreach, but it creates interesting thoughts about how do I create it? How can we innovate to leverage that in a way that, again, scales more than other people? Somehow it's find a way to do that efficiently, but authentically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Even Zoom bots, there are bots that will show up to meetings and look like people. And who would have thought?
Jeff, maybe I'm a bot right now. Maybe you're interviewing
Maybe.
an AI. Seriously, in a few years, you probably wouldn't count that out. And again, back to if there is a screen between you and me, or a speaker and a microphone between you and me, I don't know. I'm going to have to test that to see if you're really Jeff.
That's true. It is a challenge now, and it will continue to be that, and even more.
And that's back to the theme, radical clarity. If you, rather than leaning in and turning up the volume and cranking out the stuff, I'm going to do more because I can. If you instead go against your instincts and slow down and quiet down and get real and find the real value, and generosity is part of this, and share that rather than take. It's counterintuitive because of our society, but that's how you win. It's that quiet value that's going to come through. It already
That's
does come
good.
through, but it will come through even more.
Yeah. That's interesting because and we live in a world that really rewards velocity
Yep.
and doing the more and more of everything. So why does doing less sometimes create more meaningful growth?
For one thing, is a standard precept in business and marketing is being unique is powerful. The blue ocean strategy, right? If you're the only
Sure.
one doing something versus one of 20, that's a big advantage. So just in that alone, by not joining the crowd and doing it like everybody else, you will catch their attention. Wait a minute, look at that. That's different, right? It feels different.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
one thing. And then just back to look at who you're talking to and where they're coming from. You and I know it. Everyone listening to this knows it. We're overloaded with noise and activity, and it's things we're doing, things we're watching, things we're thinking about. Changes are accelerating in macroeconomic, geopolitical, technological. Everything's just faster, faster, more and more. And we all have to choose. We can't consume it all. To your point,
Yeah.
AI is aggregating, but that creates another problem because now you're separated. AI is doing the aggregating and the curating. So the reason that works to take it slow like that is you create a consumable experience. You reach them where they are. How grateful if I was able to come to you and convince you that, hey, I'm not going to crank you with a whole bunch of high quality artificial stuff. I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
just what you need to know. And I'm going to do it in a way that's generous and respectful and helpful. And only that much. That
Love
is
it.
serving people right where they're at. We are not listening. We're all of us are not reading the room. There's just so much, and adding to the pile doesn't help any of us.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one thing that a founder can do this week to get radically clear on their role or their roadmap?
We're going to get to resources that I can offer your listeners later, but one of the things I offer is called the Accidental CEO Audit. And it's an online questionnaire. It's 15 questions, take 5 minutes. And I'll offer a link to your listeners. That's an easy way to get started. Take that test or answer those questions. Don't worry, it's not a hard test. And I'll send a custom report back telling you what it shows in terms of where your challenges are and where your opportunities are as an accidental CEO. I think starting with knowledge, self-knowledge, is a really great place to start.
Excellent. Maybe for a tech founder who's outgrown the founder hustle but hasn't embraced the CEO seat quite yet, what's your one-liner to help them level up?
Find your meaning. Start with the value you offer and then build everything on that. That will lead you in this new venture in the most efficient and direct way to success.
Very cool. Tell us more about the resource and where can people find more about you online?
Sure, Jeff. So I've created a landing page for listeners of this podcast. You can find it at b2b-clarity.com/SaaS. And
Awesome.
yeah, it'll be there. I'll have that assessment that I talked about. I'll also have some bonus resources from Radical Clarity, the new book, and some case study profiles as well. Some other different bonus resources, all free. Just love to help get people started.
Excellent. And where can we get the book, Radical Clarity?
It's available on Amazon, but you will also, there's a link to it on the SaaS page I just mentioned to you, the landing page. You can get it there, but it's available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, hard copy, whatever. Audible's coming. Any way they want to consume it.
Fantastic. We'll make sure and link that in the show notes as well. Pete, it's been such a great conversation. Thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
I really enjoyed it, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, Pete, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources. You can learn more about Pete and his company at b2b-clarity.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. It's at Champion Leadership for full video episodes, shorts, outtakes, training, lots of resources over there for you on YouTube. And thought leaders share. Share this episode with a marketer who sees past trends. It's packed with the kind of timeless principles they love to champion. Everyone who shares this week gets an organic bottle of Founder Juice, made from tears of past burnout and juiced optimism. Pairs well with public beta launches. What if your SEO could predictably 2x your ROI with math, not just guesswork? Our next episode will be joined by Andreas Foyantes, founder of Artios and author of Data-Driven SEO with Python. Blends SEI, machine learning, and proprietary data models to unlock 3 to 5x more organic traffic for B2B companies. He is rewriting the rules with algorithmic precision in this world of AI search. He is delivering results that traditional tactics just can't match. Then, after that, 1 week from today, Ari Galper. This is such a great episode. Ari has helped thousands shift from outdated pressure tactics to a doctor mindset, where deep trust creates instant credibility and quicker closes. Ari is also the creator of the One Call Sale and author of Trust in a Split Second. Been featured in Forbes and CEO magazine. And with trust on the decline and noise on the rise, especially with all this AI stuff going on, Ari's methods are the antidote every founder and sales leader needs. So I will see you next time. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.